ORANIA Afrikaner Nationalist town in South Africa. ORANIA is an Afrikaner nationalist town in South Africa founded by Afrikaners. It is located along the Orange River in the Karoo region on the Northern Cape Province. The town is split two halves by the R369 road and is 871 kilometers 41 miles from Cape Town and approximately 680 kilometers 420 miles from Pretoria. Its climate is semi-arid. The town was founded with the goal of creating a stronghold for the Afrikaner minority group, the Afrikaans language and the Afrikaner culture through the creation of all-white Afrikaner state known as Volkstaat. The town is generally described by the outside observers and scholars as whites only and as an attempt to revive apartheid, although the community denies this. Living in the town requires application, and acceptance is dependent upon being Afrikaner, demonstrating fluency in Afrikaans, clean criminal record, and sharing the community's values and goals. Afrikaner Calvinism is an important aspect of the local culture. While the South Africa government has stated that it is opposed to the idea of a whites-only community, it has generally ignored the town. The town's economy is focused on self-sufficiency and is largely based on agriculture, notably of pecan nuts. ORANIA prints its own money-like coupon, which can be used to purchase in its stores, and maintains the last transitional representative council in South Africa, but receives no national funding. The town has pursued energy independence primarily through solar power, constructed its own sewage works, and has experimented with introducing its own cryptocurrency as a replacement for cash. In 2022, ORANIA's landfill site was the only one in the Northern Cape region to fully comply with government environmental and health regulations. Two South African residents have visited the town. Nelson Mandela visited in 1995 and Jacob Zuma in 2010. The town has also received visits from tribal leaders from the Xhosa and Tswana people. The town has grown at an annual population growth that was estimated at 10% in 2019. The population increased by 55 to 2,500 from 2018 to mid-2022 and to 2,800 in July 2023. In 2023, the town council wanted the population to grow to 10,000 as soon as possible. The stated goal of ORANIA founders was the preservation of Afrikaner culture heritage and self-workers term-aid self-reliance. All jobs from management to manual labor are done by Afrikaners. Non-Afrikaner people are not allowed to live or work there. The town's monoethnic philosophy rejects the concept of Bascap, where the white minority exploits black labor for economic gain, in favor of a model of strict Afrikaner self-sufficiency. Critics accuse the town authorities of rejecting the Rainbow Nation concept and trying to create apartheid-era South Africa within a white ethno-state. Residents argue that they wish to preserve their own Afrikaner culture heritage and protect themselves from crime in South Africa. They also reject the white label as meaningless. History. Early history of the area. The ORANIA region has been inhabited since about 30,000 years ago, when Stone Age hunter-gatherers lived a nomadic lifestyle there. A number of late Stone Age engravings indicated the presence of the San people, who remained the main cultural group until the second half of the 1700s, with the arrival of the European hunters, trekkers, and Griquo people. The earliest indication of the presence of Afrikaner people in ORANIA dates to 1762. In the early 19th century, many farmers moved seasonally back and forth across the Orange River in search of better grazing. An 1842 roundstone map shows the Vroestel kraal farm on which Orania would later be built. The first known inhabitant of what is today Orania was Stefania or Creert Vermeulen, who purchased the farm in 1882. Etymology. The Department of Water Affairs established the town as Vroestel in 1963 to house the workers who were building the irrigation canals connected to the Van der Kloof Dam. It was part of the bigger scheme to bring water to the semi-desert central parts of South Africa. Other comparable construction towns like Van der Kloof and Ovington were also established. Department of Water Affairs changes the name to Orania as variation of Afrikaans word orange, referring to the adjoining river after it was chosen in a competition. By 1962, it was home to 56 families. Carload workers who participated in the construction project live in a separate area named Rougevat. The first phase of the irrigation project was completed in 1976. After the dam was completed, most of the workers moved away and the town fell into disrepair. The department completely abandoned Orania in 1989. Origins of modern Orania. The idea that Afrikaners should concentrate in a limited region of South Africa was first circulated by the South African Bureau for Racial Affairs, SABRA, in 1966. By the 1970s, SABRA advocated the idea of transforming South Africa into a commonwealth where different population groups would develop parallel to each other. At the time, mainstream Afrikaners supported the Bantustan policy, which allocated 174,307 square meters, which is 67,300 square miles, for the 15 million black Africans living in South Africa at the time. May 1984 saw the establishment of the Afrikaner Volkstaat, an organization founded by Karel Boshoff, a right-wing academic and the son-in-law of former South African Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd. The goal of the Afrikaner Volkstaat was to put the ideas of the SABRA into practice. Boshoff regarded contemporary plans of the National Party government to retain control through limited reforms as doomed to fail. Believing that black majority rule could not be avoided, he supported the creation of the separate, smaller state for the Afrikaner nation instead. In 1988, Boshoff founded the Afrikaner Vredesstichting, Afrikaner Freedom Foundation, or AFSTIC. The founding principles of the AFSTIC were based on the belief that since black majority rule was unavoidable, the Europeans' minority rule morally unjustifiable, Afrikaners would have to form their own nation or Volkstaat in a smaller part of South Africa. Orania was intended to be the basis of the Volkstaat, which would come into existence once a large number of Afrikaners moved to Orania and other such growth points, and would eventually include the towns of Prieska, Breestown, Carnarvon, Wellington, and Calvinia, reaching the west coast. On 23 April 1994, the Freedom Front, the African National Congress, and the National Party South Africa signed the Accord of Afrikaner Self-Determination. This led to Article 235 of Constitution of South Africa, which guarantees the right of self-determination for culture groups. Boshoff's plan excluded the area of traditional Boer republics in the Transvaal and the Free State, which encompassed the economic heartland of South Africa and much of its natural resources, instead focusing on the economically underdeveloped and semi-desert area in the northwestern Cape. This desert state, ORANIA, because of its very inhospitableness, will not be feared or coveted by the South African government. Proponents of the idea conceded that this model would demand significant economic sacrifices from Afrikaners who moved to the Volkstaat. The model is based on the principle of own labor, requiring that all work in the Volkstaat be performed by its citizens, including plowing fields, collecting garbage, and tending gardens, which is traditionally performed by blacks in the rest of South Africa. The town's original objective was to create an Afrikaner majority in the northwestern Cape by encouraging the construction of other such towns, with the eventual goal of an Afrikaner majority in the area and an independent Afrikaner state between ORANIA and the West Coast. Boshoff had originally envisaged a population of 60,000 after 15 years. While he conceded that most Afrikaners might decide not to move to the Volkstaat, he thought that it was essential Afrikaners have this option, since it would make them feel more secure, thereby reducing tensions in the rest of South Africa. Please stay tuned for part 2 of ORANIA. And that's it from Egypt's network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.